Hello. Welcome to Giggles and Gratitude. I'm Dina.
Diana.
Hello, Diana.
Hi, Dina.
It's been a while. We took off for 4th of July. We felt like, hey, we deserve a break too.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did, but I hope they missed us. I don't know. I hope.
They sure did because we missed them.
We
I
did. I really did miss it. I did. I had a lot
did
of things to
too.
say and express myself. I had nobody to express them to.
Well, let's get caught up.
Yeah, I'm always like, save it for the pod, Dina. Save it for the pod. Okay. Okay, well, I have a gratitude, as this show is called Giggles and Gratitude, and sometimes we don't like officially say, here's my giggle, here's my gratitude, but I did have one. And of course, every day we're grateful for just things in general, our homes, over the roof over our head, the tummy, food in
Amen.
our tummies, uh,
That's right.
friends and family, all that goes without saying. This was a special thing, so I wanted to mention it. Last year, I had an eye exam just so I could get a new pair of glasses. I thought, at my age, my eyes are changing constantly, so why waste money on a bad prescription, an old prescription?
Yeah.
So just went for a general checkup, and they have this new machine that's very in depth. I don't know when the last time you had your eyes checked was.
Way too long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot more than you think when you call and they're like, you haven't been here in 5 years. And I'm like, no, it's last year.
No.
But this machine, I don't know what it's called. And I live in a small town, so maybe this is old news, but for me it was new. And you put your eyes into it like the glaucoma test thing. You
Oh,
have to lean in and look, and there's a little X you watch go by, and then there's a big flash, and it actually takes a picture. Maybe it's in place of dilating, where they can see everything. Uh,
sure.
and it's like a 3D almost X-ray kind of moving X-ray. Ultrasound, is that the word I'm trying to think of?
I don't know. I've not had it done, so I
Okay.
don't
Where
know
you can
what it
like move, like
is.
scan across and it'll go around the back of your eye and you can watch it on the screen. So that was last year. He did that and I went into the exam room. She did it, the tech, and I went into the exam room and he just gave me a lot of bad news, which I wasn't expecting. And one was that I needed cataract surgery
Okay.
immediately. Two was that my retina was about to detach. It was just hanging on by a thread, and he showed it to me. And he said, if you fall, that could set it off. So if you fall or you see a bright flash
Right.
during anything, come to me immediately or go to the emergency room if it's nighttime or whatever. But because you could go blind.
Wow. Yes.
So I left there. He said, go immediately get schedule your cataract surgery. Go ahead and get LASIK while you're doing it, and that'll be a good positive thing. And well, Dina didn't do it, because I was like,
Dana.
that's a hard word to hear, cataract, when you're just a young chick. Like,
Sure.
that's
I
not
get
fun.
it. But you made the effort to go to the appointment. You really should heed his advice if you're going to make the appointment, right?
I should have. I should have,
That's
but I
just a
didn't.
gentle nudge reminder.
Thank you, Nurse Diana. You're right. You're right. So, I left feeling really depressed and time passes and you forget about it, you don't think about it. Well, like a week later, I was walking my dog and I tripped over his leash, and I fell into a ditch. And I immediately thought, do I see a flash? Do I see a flash? And I didn't. But then, so a year passes. I do nothing as far as cataract surgery goes. I do nothing for my eyes. And I changed my diet some, which I wasn't thinking about my eyes when I did that. I'm just thinking, God, I need to lose weight. That's what I was thinking. So I went back. Um, I guess it's been 2 weeks now, and he did the same machine, and I was like, I was preparing myself. I needed new glasses. I didn't like my other glasses, so I was just dreading it, like a nauseous feeling going in of the news. Like he was probably going to say, Dina, you're worse. You didn't do this. You didn't do that, like I told you. So I went in there. It was kind of a mixed bag. The first thing he said was that my retina had detached. He showed it to me, but that the way my eye socket was shaped, and I hope I explained this right, it was cradling my eye,
Wow.
supporting my eye. So I probably would not ever have a problem with that. He said, you got lucky. It just, the way your socket is, and I'm not telling anyone to ignore the retina detachment because I just got lucky. But he said, you didn't see a flash of light, right? And I said, no, I didn't. He said, you're good. And I said, and I didn't get my cataract surgery like you said. And he said, did I tell you you needed cataract surgery? And I said, yes, you did. And he looked back and he said, yeah, I did. He said, Dina, it's shrunk. It's like you probably got 10, 15 years before you're going to need cataract surgery. And I said,
Wow.
no, it's amazing. So I did the eye test and my eyes had actually improved. And he said, this is amazing. I don't know what you're doing. He said, maybe you've cut out sugar more, and maybe you were really pouring in the sugar when you came before, which I was. I was stress eating sweets,
Sure.
comforting
Right.
myself, the death of my dad, exhaustion, caring for my mom. So that was my little treat was streets. And I said, I have cut back, not enough, but I have cut back. And he said, well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And before he had mentioned macular degeneration, I was headed that way. And he said, I see no signs that you would be headed for macular degeneration. So I am
Yes.
so grateful because I did pray before I prayed in the parking lot before I went in to God to give me the strength to accept whatever he said to me, not to heal me. I have a tendency not to ask for healing in the big things. I have a tendency to
Understand.
ask for understanding. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
acceptance, understanding, and strength is so I'm very grateful for that news.
Yes. Yes. I share that joy with you. That's awesome.
Thank you. So he said, I have seen so many people, and he had lost a lot of weight. And he said, I've seen so many people come in here with blindness due to sugar, due to developing diabetes from
Wow.
eating poorly, and they're losing their vision. And he said, I was on that track, and he said, the side effect is I lost weight. So something to think about.
I think that's a great thing to think about. Plus, you can't get any more eyes. You can't buy those at Kroger or Target or
Not
anywhere.
yet. When we're dead and gone, you could probably go and buy some new eyes. But yeah, and the vision, thinking about, I mean, my eyes aren't great. I'm grateful for what I have, but to think about being blind,
Cool.
I don't know how they're very strong people to live like that.
That's correct. Yes.
So I am very grateful and I'm going to improve my diet even more. When you cut out sweets, you're thinking about your hips or your thighs or your belly. You're not thinking about your eyes, or at least never did. So
Well, everything is connected in the body, so I think it all just kind of, if you can correct a habit and it helps you on two fronts, then all the better.
sure. And I'm sure in your line of work, you have seen the damage that diabetes can
Oh,
cause.
yes, absolutely.
But did you have anything that happened to you since I've last seen you that you stood out as a gratitude or a grateful or a unexpected good news or anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, over the July 4th holiday, we had unexpected guests come to our home, but we were so happy to have them. It was our grandbabies.
Oh
They
boy.
stayed, yeah, Andy and son, they stayed a week with us and we had a ball. They went to the zoo and goodness gracious, kind of everywhere and while we worked.
Oh yeah.
But they loved the pool, and of course, we live on the lake, so they were enamored by all of that.
That's so great. I used to live on the lake years ago. It's nothing like your house, as fabulous as your house, but you want to share it. You're like, I've got this wonderful place and I love it and I enjoy my solitude, but you're so happy when someone else can enjoy it and
Yes.
share it
Yes.
with them. I mean, it's a shame to keep it all to yourself. And
And that's really, we've just moved in and got the back finished with completing the pool. So it was really our first opportunity to entertain. And especially, it was great that our family, that just made it all the better.
yeah, it's kind of like something you created and you're like, look what we did and they like it and we can all
And
enjoy it
yes,
together.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Of
It's
course,
great.
we
It's
did
unexpected, so that
all
was
the 4th of July things that people do, the cookouting, eating too much,
of course.
and did fireworks, of course, and all that. So, yes, we had a great time, and I'm grateful for that.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, we did that. My sister's neighborhood is crazy. The firework. It's like you don't have to pay for it. It's like going to a professional firework. They're all around you. You're like, okay. And then by the end, I was like, okay, enough. I've had enough. I've had enough.
Yeah.
I'm going home.
Well, where we live, we are up on a cliff, so you can actually see there's usually about 10 to 15 different firework
Mm.
places because we can see over the top of everything. So we have a multitude of fireworks. But the funny thing is, I find amusing. We start a few days before. I mean, do we like practice with fireworks?
I know, here all of a sudden you hear, and you're like, oh my gosh, a gunshot. No,
And
no,
then we know
July 1st.
exactly which ones we like, and then those are the ones we line up on July 4th. And then we have like the a huge, where everybody just goes, wow, those were
Yeah.
awesome. But,
You
but
have a great
then
vantage
also,
point.
I do, but then also after the 4th, you're kind of boomed out, and
Yeah.
they keep doing it on the 5th and the 6th and the 7th. And it's like, okay, people, I got to go to work the next day. So yeah, I've had my fill of fireworks for a while.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So I also have a giggle, which can lead us into a conversation. I think it's a good conversation. I volunteer at church in the kids department. I haven't been there in a while because of other obligations that I have, and I miss it terribly. But what's something that happened to me I was reading about that reminded me of one of the kids. It's 3 to 4 year olds. So 3 to 4 year olds, they can talk and they say some amazing things sometimes. So
Yes, they do.
one of our projects was to draw their family. We're making like a card. I can't remember what the event was, what the holiday was. We're making a card. So we said, why don't you draw your family? Everyone has different families. Some people only have a dad, some people only have a mother, some people have their grandparents, and some people have a mother and father. So it's a little boy was drawing his family, and he said, I want to make another one. And I said, well, who do you want to draw on that? He said, I'd like to draw the first family that God made. And I said, oh, that's a good idea.
Oh,
So he draws Adam. I said, well, there was Adam. He draws Adam. He draws Eve. And I said, and they had some kids. And he said, well, do they have grandkids? Do they have other kids? How big is the family? Oh, I have a room or whatever. I can't remember exactly how it led to it. But basically, he said, Dina, did Adam and Eve's kids marry their brothers and sisters? If they were the only family in the world. And I was like, uh.
back to you on that.
Yeah. Have you ever been posed? Have you ever thought about that? Or
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I have.
do you have an answer for it?
I do not.
Okay, good. I think I have one.
Okay, good.
So I thought I'm going to have to research. What I said to the child was, no, they did not. You don't marry your brothers and sisters. But if you want to really get into that question, I would ask the pastor or your mom. Because I was on the spot there, I thought,
Fabulous answer, Dana. That's
yeah, I passed the
fantastic.
buck very quickly. So here's what I have found.
Okay,
And when I go to research an answer to a question or something about the Bible, this is that source's opinion.
right.
We may agree, we may not agree. Someone listening may say, "Oh my gosh, that's not wrong. That's blasphemous. This is this." People are never going to agree on the topic. Everybody's never going to agree. So keep that in mind. So this is from realbiblestudy.org. Some people say to that question, yes, they married their brothers and sisters. God allowed it in the beginning. And because there were not generations and generations of people doing that, it wasn't a chance for deformities or whatever in the very beginning. That's what I've heard people say that it was allowed in the beginning to populate the earth. And they'll say it had to be because Genesis 3:20 says Adam named his wife Eve because she would become the mother of all the living. So I guess Eve means mother of all the living. So that is their source for saying, yes, they did marry their brother and sisters. However, according to Real Bible Study, the living, quote, in the Old Testament terminology means the spiritual living, the saved from among the Jews, including the patrilineal ancestors of Jesus up to Adam and Eve. It does not mean of all the people on earth. She was the mother of all the people on earth, just of the living, uh,
Sure.
in the spirit, living in the spirit, the chosen family that God created. Bible focuses on the story of this family that God created. It is said that they were the first family, but in the meantime, while they're together and they're having babies, he is creating other people, according to this source. What do you think about that so far?
I have not heard that theory. I don't think that's outside of God's realm. I think that's totally possible. However, I do believe everything came from Adam and Eve.
Okay.
And I just by process of deduction, there had to be some intermingling of family in order to populate the earth. And I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. It's likely, this says, it confirms that the term that Eve was the mother of all the living, but Genesis 3:20 does not mean that the whole earth was populated from one couple. It means God created other couples as he did Adam and Eve afterward. It's likely that Adam and Eve were the first couple and were the only ones subjected to the Garden of Eden tree test. They were chosen. Adam and Eve were also the only ones who ate from the tree of life, which gave them and their descendants long lives, up to 900 plus years old. Then, after the flood, God limited the human age to 120.
Hmm.
Adam and Eve were the first couple placed in the garden, but the other people God created were not put there. As the focus was on Adam and Eve as the first couple and the lineage of the living, the other people God created afterwards were not the focus of the Bible. They were not the chosen family that would be descendants of Jesus, as they did not have their descendants in the quote, the living line, so living in with God. There was no mention of other people being in the Garden of Eden or eating from the tree of life, but after the cross, the Gentiles, which had genes from the other people's lines, were invited back into God's family through believing in Jesus. So it's saying that that was the chosen family. That's what the Bible is written about. That is the descendants, I mean, the precursors to Jesus. But there were other people, he created other people to populate the earth in the meantime, is according to this site. I'll include a link.
That's an
Um,
interesting concept.
yeah, it makes sense,
It
you
does
know,
make
but
sense now that you say it. I've never heard of that type of thought process. I was born and raised in a family that went to church every Sunday, Wednesday, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday if it was open, and
right.
it was it was not an option not to believe or to think of an alternative in that perspective. So thank you for sharing that because I have often wondered that. I just kind of know that God has it all under control, and whether I understand it or not, um, you know, I'm just grateful that He loves us and that He created mankind and that He keeps believing in us because there are times I feel like we as humans, we don't always act our best. We don't always say the right things and or do the right things. And there are times where I lose faith in humanity. So I'm just glad that God doesn't and He's got it all figured out, whether it was through other families, which is a great perspective. I'm going to think on that. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. I think this is one of those gotcha questions that non-believers like to use, to try to stump
Well, and
Christians.
what's the point in that? Why, again, why do we need to act like that? Let's just all recognize that we came from somewhere and be grateful for it, regardless of what your thought process is of how it works.
See if there's any other points here. Incest marriages are against God's instructions. According to Leviticus 20:17, if a man marries his sister, the daughter of either his father or his mother, and they have sexual relations, it's a disgrace. They're to be publicly removed. It's dishonor. So you may say that Leviticus was long after Adam and Eve, but are you saying that our holy God caused people to sin and tolerate it, as some churches explain? So their conclusion is that God created more people even further explains the variety of races and ethnicities. So no need to trip over ourselves trying to explain that Adam and Eve possessed multiple genes, etc., or maybe Africans evolved to become Asian or North Europeans. I believe God created the various types of people from dust, but likely kept each couple in their own race at that time, creating the women from the rib bone of their men. The Bible did not provide these details, but this would be consistent with God's ways as we learn in the Bible. So, I mean, I could see where people could get into a debate and
Oh
get
yeah.
mad about this. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
the Bible is full of mysteries. Uh, Take the parables, learn from them, and you can always know that someone who was living in a certain part of the world can only report what happened in that area. You know what I mean? It's like
Correct. Yes.
other things going on possibly that they wouldn't even think to mention or to understand. So we're focusing on this one family, is what you could say to your non-believers, I guess.
Right.
And listen to what you said, Diana. I mean, that is not that's the minutia of a book when that's not the message of the book.
Right. Right.
Okay, and if anyone would like to read further on this. I skipped a bunch of this because I didn't, we only have a 30-minute podcast, but I'll include a link from realbiblestudy.org, and I'm sure there's many places you can read further on it. And Dinah and I, this is something I think we disagree on, so that's cool. I like that.
So what's your thought on it? You haven't shared your thought.
I think what they're saying, I think uh, there was only one Messiah, so there's only one family that the Messiah came from. But that once God had Adam and Eve rolling, had them going, and they were established, He created people all over the world. Is what I think. So, and I'll have to say I'm ignorant on the story of Adam and Eve's children and who they married. I mean, I'm sure it's all in the begat section of everything, but
Oh yeah.
where they came from, if it said, you probably know more about that than I do. That's something I need to
Yeah,
look.
there was a lot of people that came from a lot of different places.
Right, right, exactly. Okay. I don't think that's something we need to alienate other people from or even, discourage non-believers by being real adamant about it. But
Absolutely. The
okay.
message, like you said, is love. And the message is humankind into existence.
Right.
That's why God is God. That's his job.
Exactly. Why don't you pray to God and ask him? That's what I should have said. Look, let us
Yeah,
pray. Let us pray.
that's a good answer, though. Along with the pastor and mommy.
Yes. Yes, I'm not a pastor. And that's a whole nother topic, female pastors. I'm
You
not a
just
pastor.
you just play one at Sunday school.
I'm just a teacher. Just a teacher. All right. Have you ever had or seen or said when someone passes, God must have needed another angel?
I've heard that, yes.
Yeah. I've never actually said it myself,
Uh,
but I have read it.
I've never said it either.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone's ever said it to me. Usually people say that over someone who's young, I think like a child, and they mean well. They really do
Sure
mean
they do. Yes. Very meaning well. It's very difficult to know what to say to someone who has lost a person.
right. Exactly. And I'm not criticizing or being nitpicky, but this is a podcast where we try to learn and discuss things. So this is the topic of this segment. And according to theorchard.net, this phrase is often used in an attempt to comfort, honor, and even justify loss of life. So let's talk about the inaccuracy of that phrase and why there are better ways to accomplish the goal of comforting someone. So if you say that, and I know people don't mean it when they say it, but if you think about it literally, people say that there are really three main implications if you say that. Number one is that angels are superior to humans, like we would evolve into a better, holier existence as being an angel.
Correct. Agree.
And the Bible speaks about angels in several places, and they're different from humans in very significant ways. They exist in a completely different plane. This is this person's opinion. They interact with God in ways that we cannot interact with God. They influence situations and circumstances in a way we never could. But just because angels are different from us doesn't mean God views them as superior.
Correct.
God created man in his image. He did not
Yes.
create angels in his image. So if that's the theory, we are superior to angels just because God created us in his image. And angels, we'll do a whole episode on angels because that's a whole nother crazy thing.
Is there, where in the Bible does it talk about that the angels were not in God's image? I guess I always just assumed, I've never read anything stating, I've just assumed humans and angels were equitable.
Well, there are actually nine different types of angels. There's a seraphim,
Mm-hmm.
which is a fiery one. They have
Cheers.
6 wings,
Right.
four of which to cover themselves, two to fly. There's a cherubim,
Mm-hmm.
which is where cherub comes from. They are sent to earth with great tasks. Ancient art depicts them as like the little fat faced with human faces and little fat babies with wings, basically. Number one, we don't have wings, and I don't believe we will have wings when we die. There's the thrones. The throne's appearance is the most bizarre. They look like great glowing wheels covered with many eyes. They
Okay,
serve as
right. Revelation, yes.
yeah, they serve as God's chariot. There's dominions. They're like the middle management. They receive orders from the seraphim and the cherubim, and they dish out the duties to the worker bees, the angels of the lower orders. There's the virtues. They're shaped like sparks of light. There's the powers. They're brightly colored hazy fumes. The principalities, the archangels, and then just, I guess you'd say, regular angels. Their personal guardian angels that come into this category. So I would say because there are all those different angels who are very specific and have bizarre to us appearances, we do not become angels. And
Right.
we get to sit with God and the angels do God's work. You know, they do tasks for God.
Yes.
So
Okay.
according to this article, we are superior. So by saying someone becomes an angel is actually not even is limiting their what they actually will be when they pass. Okay, number
Wow.
two, saying that God needed them means that God needs someone to die. God needs people to die.
That's a ouch message.
Yeah. God doesn't need anything.
Right.
Anything that you and I would consider a need during our time on earth is ultimately something God already created. He already has it.
He does. Yes.
Part of walking in beauty with Jesus is the fact that we're participants in his redemptive mission for the word, even though we are not needed to carry out that mission in the first place. By his grace, we are able to live with him when we die. We're able to share space with him, even. And so he didn't need us for anything.
Correct.
God
Right.
could
I
wipe
agree
us
with
out
that.
and be just fine, right?
Exactly. He could.
So if that person lost their life in an either tragic or painful way, then that would mean God caused those circumstances.
Right.
And that's a whole nother topic, you know, that why does God let things bad happen? But God, and we have talked about it, I think, and that's very complicated. But bad things happen usually because of sin and the natural order of cause and effect, and things happen. Like if someone passes away younger from a heart attack, they were born with a heart defect, or maybe they didn't take care of themselves. You know, it's not God zapped them dead. It's
Just their time or what, I mean, if we have a time that is somewhere, we have a clock that's ticking. Again, that's one of those areas that I have experienced in, and I had to give that to God because I didn't understand it, and I still don't understand it to this day.
Yeah. If you were to go to the doctor and you're told, you know, your heart, you have high cholesterol, you've got to do this and this and this and this. God, that was a blessing from God that there's someone who chose to be a doctor, educating themselves, they're a blessing to you, and you don't do it, or it's too late, maybe, and you have a heart attack. It's not God's fault that you had that heart attack. You know,
It is not. No.
someone died in a car accident, somebody probably made a bad decision. Either you did or the person who hit you did. So it's not, but I do believe when something good happens and you pray for a miracle and it happens, God did grant that. So, I mean, that's just my personal belief.
I agree with a lot of that. Yeah.
Everything good comes from God.
God is good. God is love.
So it's probably better to do something for someone. Tell them you're so sorry. We did an episode on grief that you can go back and look at, anyone listening who would like to listen to it, with things to say and do when someone is grieving from a psychological standpoint. But the thing to do is to see the need of a person that you love that's grieving and do it. You know, like, what can I do for you? Or if I can do anything, let me know. Just search it out and do it, you know?
Being there. Yeah, show up.
Yeah, because there is always something to do. And if you say, let me know, you're kind of putting something onto them where they have to come up with something or they have to ask you later, you know how you said this, and kind of come to you with their tail between their legs to ask for help. So just try to find something that you can do and do it.
And literally during that time of such, at least the acute loss, you can't think or process what it is that you need. So
Right.
you need someone to know what you need before you know you need it.
Exactly. Don't give the person grieving a task to think of something or to come back to you. Just try to, even if it's just like you say, I'm here, call me,
Right.
I'm here, or send a text later, keep following up, you know, and just, I love you and I'm here. And, you know,
Right.
you have that relationship. Because usually just about anything you're going to say is going to be stupid and wrong if you use all the cliches, you know?
Yeah. And again, you never know how a person is feeling, whether it's been the loss of a child or the loss of a husband, a mother, father, whatever it is, everybody is different. So I feel like the less that you can say and the more that you can do is always better.
I totally agree. I love you, I'm sorry, and then think what you can do. You know, if you're that close to them, that if you're that close to them, you know what their needs are probably.
Yeah, because you don't know the answer. You don't know what happened. You can't explain it. So why try?
Yeah, exactly. I want to leave time for Diana's devotions. I think you've got a special one today. So I want to say thank you
To
guys for listening, and I'm glad we're back. And we're going to try. We have crazy stuff happening all the time to get
stay
you
on
an
schedule.
episode.
And we're
Yeah,
going to listen to our eye doctor and we're going to eat less sugar
yeah,
and we are going to show up and do more than we say on when people are hurting.
there you go. We will try to get a show out midweek. Hopefully, we can do it this week. But just always check it. If you hit that little subscribe button, it'll send you a little notice whenever a new episode's out. So you don't even have to remember it. But we are glad to be back. We love you guys. Thank you for joining me again, Diana, through all the chaos of the world and our days and our issues. So I'm gonna let you take it away.
It's my honor and my pleasure, Dina.
Yay.
So I'm going to name this Care for the Caretaker. And we have had an acute glimpse in Texas as to death and destruction that hits us. And if you don't feel that in your heart, something is wrong. And we are so thankful for the first responders. And in the hospital, we used to call this boots on the ground. And that meant you came with your boots on. I didn't come with my high heels on. I came with my boots on. And I got ready to get down into the trenches and do whatever was needed to be done. And when everyone else is running out of wherever the tragedy is happening, these people, our first responders, are the ones that are running in. And it is their courage and really their bravery shown that is unmatched. Think about it. Would you run into a burning building? Would you jump into horrific racing water to save a child? You know, what would you do if you were asked to do that? So I want each of you to just kind of think of that they put their own lives in harm's way to rescue others. And that is an example of love. Love is always giving, love is always thoughtful, and love thinks of others. And That, my people, is not only just dedication and devotion to their job, but it is their calling. And they have a special something inside of them that when they wake up or the alarm sounds, they're there. They show up, they're ready, whatever the task is. And in these moments where we have drawn national attention, it does remind us of what is really important and what is not. So, for all the caregivers out there, whether you're a first responder, a firefighter, police, doctor, nurse, medic, anyone in the caregiver role, and that can be a person in your daily life at home as well, meaning a caregiver. But for all of these people, whatever your role is, remember that that is a sacrificial role. And that does come with emotional and mental stressors. And I encourage each and every one of you, if you're a caregiver or a first responder, to care for yourself as well. It's kind of like put your oxygen mask on first and then help your neighbor. Keep check on keeping yourself healthy and mentally strong. That way you can remain on time and on call when that alarm does sound. Our heart is with Texas, but our heart is with every state and every place across the world. And I thank you for listening. And I hope that you got something out of this. And if you have a caregiver or a first responder in your life, please hug them because they have a tough calling. I love you all. Till next time.